All I do is for cultivation, and all people pursue profit. However, I have a heart for goodness. An Lai traveled through time and aspired to become a true cultivator, but had no spiritual heritage and his memory was sealed. His father, who was suspected to be a cultivator, was killed by a flying sword, and his mother passed away early, leaving him and his sister to rely on each other for their lives. Ran was obsessed with cultivating immortality and entered Buddhism first, but was told that he had no talent for cultivation and was unwilling to accept it. He persevered hard. However, the Buddhist sect is actually a demon sect. Before being killed, the small Buddhist sect was unintentionally destroyed by the ghost Taoist, and An Lai was taken into the sect by the ghost Taoist. However, when he was taken into the sect, it turned out to be for the sake of plunder. He twisted and twisted the snake while evading preparation. When he saw the situation, he used the power of a Buddhist monk to successfully counterattack. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Youth Not Afraid of Hardship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the saying goes, the three great hardships of life are forging iron, rowing a boat, and grinding tofu. On the night of the third shift, it was even darker, with gusts of cold wind blowing through the windows without any paper. Cool. A crisp sound came out. In the dimly lit tofu room, the stone mill rustled, and a half-grown boy wearing a light and thin vest, sweating profusely, was burying his head in grinding. He was wearing half-cut pants, revealing his slender calves, his muscles tense, trembling slightly, clearly using all his strength to push the heavy stone mill around non-stop. The white fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean while gold slowly flows out from the gap of the stone mill and flows into the wooden barrel below along the mill trough. The one who is grinding beans is a stove monk named An Lai. He has been here at Bai Yin Temple for more than a year. Last year, while Bai Yin Temple was recruiting disciples, he was taken into the temple as a miscellaneous worker with his skill in making tofu. However, he had no legal title and used his original name. He was assigned to a stove that he didn't want to come to, and since then he has been grinding beans and making bean food in the temple. Every day, at the third watch, he grinds beans, and at the fourth watch, he cooks fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean while gold. At the fifth watch, he sends tofu pudding to the eminent monk in the temple, and then it's An's turn to have breakfast. It's also a bowl of fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean while gold with a bowl of tofu pudding. At this moment, the third night has passed, and besides darkness, the Bai Yin Temple is silent, with only a slight sound of grinding stones coming from the tofu room. When it was dark and the wind was high, a pair of blood-red eyes appeared outside the tofu room. I looked through the crack of the door and saw An Lai who was grinding. It was like seeing fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean while gold that had just been boiled, waiting to become delicious tofu pudding. The red eyes were shining. This is still early, he turned around and left, leaving only a soft and gentle voice that drifted away with the wind. An Lai was completely unaware of this and was very satisfied as long as he could stay at Bai Yin Temple, despite not being able to go out and working every day without rest. Besides, he can afford to pay for food and accommodation, and he can still earn 3 taels of silver per month to bring to the little sister who is staying at his uncle's house. He is also more content, so 3 taels of silver should be enough for her to live at the foot of the mountain. Silver is useless to him on the mountain, but indispensable to the little sister at the foot of the mountain. Every time he thinks of his younger sister, he rarely smiles. She is his only relative in this world, and also the only 2 obsessions An Lai has here. Yes, because he came from crossing the Blue Star. On a rainy summer day, one cannot go out to farm, and the entertainment in the mountain village is limited. If their phone falls into the water and they haven't had time to repair it, they can only stay at home and turn on old antiques that haven't been used for a long time. The square box TV with a history of more than 20 years is used. In the TV series, the protagonist, who is a demon but behaves upright, is fighting against the heavenly army and generals, and is about to be captured by the heavenly court. A thunderbolt shook the world, a lightning bolt landed on his roof, and the TV set off a white light. When he regained his senses, he came to this world. Becoming an 8-year-old An Lai, he also had a 4-year-old sister Anshin, nicknamed Xiaoya. The two had just lost both parents and lived in an uncle's house. They went back and forth, and at the age of 8, An Lai needed to push a stone mill to make tofu to support himself and his dragging oil bottle sister. Apart from having a smaller body, he was not panicked in other aspects. He was very skilled in making tofu, and this work lasted for more than 2 years. But since knowing that this world can cultivate into immortality, An Lai doesn't care about anything else, only regards cultivation as his sole purpose in this life, vowing to cultivate into immortality, traverse various realms, and live forever. Just the procrastinating little girl reminds him from time to time that you still need to raise your little sister, and after 2 or 3 years, raising your big sister becomes the second obsession in this life. From then on, he searched around and finally found the White Rock Temple, a cultivation immortal gate that was 100 miles away. Although being a monk was not as good as his intention, he did not find any other immortal gates. Therefore, make up your mind and make sufficient preparations to enter Bai-Yen Temple for cultivation. According to him, this is riding a donkey to find a horse. In his past life, he was still a bachelor in his 30s. In this life, he finally had a beautiful appearance that could make a little white face, but he didn't want to be a bachelor. The result is that, as the old saying goes, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. An Lai didn't notice any golden fingers and was actually accused by the monks of Bai-Yen Temple of lacking cultivation qualifications. In the end, it was thanks to his exquisite tofu craftsmanship that he successfully infiltrated the temple and became a miscellaneous disciple, responsible for making tofu. As a result, it has been over a year now, and he suspects that he has come to experience a life even worse than that of Blue Star. Although Blue Star did not find a wife during his time, life was still relatively comfortable, at least, especially in the endless network. He has always been dissatisfied with anyone he sees, and he has never lost. Thinking about his life after crossing over, he had to take his sister to make a living since he was 8 years old. He had to wake up at 12 o'clock every day to grind tofu. Finally, he found out that he had come to the world of cultivation and entered the sect of cultivation. However, he did not have the qualifications to practice and was not even qualified to be a monk who could not win his wife. This seemed to be even more tragic than on the Blue Star. Maybe the golden finger hasn't arrived yet. An Lai always comforts herself so much. Make good tofu and keep it for now. For An Lai, who comes from the Blue Star, it's like an old lady pinching her nose and holding a handful. In addition to the old tofu that has not changed for many years in the world, An Lai introduced various kinds of bean food in the White Rock Temple, such as fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wild gold, tofu pudding, bean skin, dried tofu, bean oil, bean gluten, tender tofu, and so on. All the monks in the White Rock Temple were delighted. If we say who is most important in the current stove, it is not the firehead senior brother in charge of the stove, nor the volcano senior brother in charge of replenishing supplies, but his tofu shop manager, An Lai junior brother, who has been in the temple for a year. Even if he cannot practice, he is still just a miscellaneous worker. Of course, he is the only one in the tofu room on weekdays, and of course, he is the manager of the tofu room to the outside world. In fact, no one wants to come to this tofu room. Speaking of Bai-Yen Temple, it is a Buddhist holy land within a radius of thousands of miles, which is even more so in the eyes of ordinary people in the city below the mountain. There are many high monks in the temple who possess magical power and cherish the hearts of ordinary people. They treat these poor people with great compassion. On weekdays, but with some requests, exorcism and warding off evil spirits is achieved through manual capture. Wherever the Dharma reaches, demons are subdued, but in this ordinary land of thousands of miles, it has an excellent reputation. Therefore, Baiyan Temple has been established for 200 years, and the incense has become more and more prosperous. Day after day, it rises and falls, and spring and winter come and go. The pilgrims are constantly coming and going, and even the 38,000 steps at the bottom of the mountain that lead directly to the temple gate have discouraged many devout pilgrims. Therefore, the incense still flourishes. However, An Lai felt depressed in his heart. Even though he walked through the back door into the temple, shaved his hair, and even practiced martial arts, he still couldn't find the key to his cultivation and remained immortal. Younger martial brother An Lai came into the tofu room with a loud cry. The doors and windows rustled. A rough-looking monk appeared in the head of Hualai, who came here every morning to feed on tofu pudding. Without stopping his work, he scooped 2 more spoons of water until the water overflowed the dried beans before putting down the wooden spoon and wiping the hot sweat from his head with his hand. Only then did he open the door and welcome him out. I saw a sturdy man who was 7 feet tall, dressed in a blue disciple monk robe, with a big bald head with 2 ring scars, bright and lively eyes, and strode towards me. Seeing An push open the door and come out, he smiled and said, "Younger martial brother An Lai, today we need to prepare more beans. The county magistrate's wife will come to the temple tomorrow to fulfill her wish, and there will be a lot of offerings for the temple. The host has arranged for the wife and accompanying pilgrims to have meals in the temple. There will be 18 vegetarian dishes, and you need 8 tofu for 30 people. Senior Huang, do you want to increase the quantity of 30 people or only make the quantity of 30 people?" Huang is the attendant monk next to the host. Despite his rough appearance and shocking voice, he is actually delicate in his mind and meticulous in his work. He has had the opportunity to follow the host's cultivation since childhood and is deeply loved by the host. It is said that his cultivation is also extraordinary, and his Vajra skills have reached a level where Vajra is not bad, and his strength cannot be underestimated. This should be an increase of 30 people. The elders in the temple are used to the vegetarian food you make with beans, so you can't reduce it. At most, reduce the food intake of the disciples. Huang pondered in his heart, at most, the disciples would just nag a few words, but the elder has a high cultivation level and a strange temper. He changed his diet recklessly, which angered them. There are many scriptures in the temple, but whether it is copying the Diamond Sutra or reciting the Mahayana mind method, it is not very good for him. At least 5 liters of dried beans need to be added, Senior Huang. It's not that Senior Huang doesn't want it. The Lady of the City Lord is a noble person of our Baiyan Temple, and the weight of the elders and hosts cannot be reduced. Look at my small arms and legs, Junior Huang. I'm going to betray the trust of the abbot and Senior Huang. An Lai had a bitter expression on his face, raised his 2 arms that looked at the slender and meatless flesh, shook them in front of Huang, and said, "Adding an extra 5 liters of beans means I need to make 2 days of it a day. Even if I don't eat, drink, sleep or rest, I won't be able to finish it. Come, junior brother. If it can be completed this time, I will advise the host and promise you that my diamond glass body is good for cultivation." Huang heard An Lai's words and didn't wait for him to finish speaking, but he hugged An Lai in his arms, blinked his eyes, and signaled to him how rare this opportunity was. Upon hearing this, An Lai's heart darkened as he realized that his body was made of diamond and glass, and he had achieved great cultivation. His body was protected by golden light, and his whole body was like glass, not stained with the mortal world. At that time, all poisons would not invade, and all evil spirits would not be stained. It was truly a top-notch skill. After hearing about it, An Lai was fascinated for a long time and tried every means to obtain the Diamond Sutra, but only managed to obtain it. After practicing for half a year, he was unable to grasp the essence. According to Huang, there is no one among those who can cultivate this Diamond Sutra. He also relies on the path of cultivators and has forcibly cultivated half of it. Otherwise, he would not have been selected as a personal follower by the host. An Lai's face turned bitter, full of disappointment, and he leaned in his ear and whispered, "Senior Huang, you had already passed on the Diamond Sutra to me half a year ago. However, my junior brother is dull, but he does not have the physical and mental qualifications of his senior brother, and he has never been able to grasp the essence." Upon hearing this, Huang felt anxious and knew that senior brother An Lai had no desires for anything else, but he was extremely focused on cultivation. However, his aptitude was extremely poor, and he still has no key points in his cultivation to this day. That's great. The diamond palm, which you learn from the Diamond Sutra, is also a profound technique for beginners. Buddhist disciples, a type of practitioner who comprehends Buddhism and practices the Tao, usually recite scriptures and pays homage to Buddha, preferring stillness rather than movement. They often meditate and recite Buddhism without eating or drinking for a day, but not without comprehending it for a day. By comprehending the truth in difficult Buddhist scriptures, they can achieve boundless Buddhism. However, they are the most magical cultivators in the world of practice. Although there are countless Buddhas who have comprehended Buddhism, very few have obtained it. Another type is like senior brother Huang, who is a practitioner of the Tao. He is not naturally fond of meditation and enlightenment, but prefers to use his body to worship and practice Buddhism, but also directly points to the essence of Buddhism. Practice is often easier, and in the end, he returns to simplicity and becomes a person of great enlightenment, practicing great kindness and goodness. Senior Huang, 3 months ago when you passed me the diamond palm, I still don't know how to get started, but I was disappointed. An Lai's heart once again darkened, wondering if she really couldn't practice in this lifetime, which made her lose confidence. In the blink of an eye, I dispelled this thought and finally came to this world of cultivation. At a young age and facing some setbacks, how could I give up easily? Immediately, his heart turned to Huang and he said, "Senior brother Huang, listen to me. I have to get up and push out 2 liters of beans in the 3rd watch day when I have 5 liters of beans. I will make tofu pudding for the host and elders in the morning. In the morning, I will grind 3 liters of beans to make tofu. I will eat at lunch and dinner. In the afternoon, I will make all kinds of bean products. Isn't the newly made stinky tofu the favorite of senior brother Huang?" Huang quickly covered Hualai's mouth and looked around without anyone before releasing the fire and saying, "Younger martial brother, it's agreed that stinky tofu is for me to enjoy alone. If the masters know that it is still so delicious, how can it be for me? In this way, you can tell me what you want, and I will help you." Senior brother had already said that Huodo senior brother could come and help me, but he had been thinking about it for a long time. I probably knew very little about Buddhism, so I couldn't enter. No, it's my sincere desire to copy Buddhist scriptures and recite them in my free time, in order to prove the Buddha's nature. In this life, there is only my Buddha in my heart. After speaking, he said, "Amitabha Buddha," to Huang. "Okay, as long as you complete the temple's instructions and Buddhist scriptures this time, I guarantee you will copy them to your satisfaction." Huang secretly thought to himself that even the disciples in the temple could read those Buddhist scriptures, but they lacked insight and were like heavenly books, making it even more difficult to get started. Transaction. Amitabha Buddha. Chapter 2. The Destruction of the Sect. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The bright moon hangs high in the peaceful countryside. A sword light is as fast as lightning, cutting through the void and appearing straight in a small farmhouse courtyard. In the courtyard, a man uses his magic to draw a blue gossip diagram in front of him, slowly rotates, and desperately resists the flickering flying sword in front of him. An anxious look appears on his face, and he turns to look at the woman inside the house, eagerly saying, "Mayor, take your child and leave quickly. The pursuit of the Buddhist school is approaching. Take your child back to your hometown and live an ordinary life. Don't seek revenge." Father. And woke up from a nightmare, it was this dream again. Since coming into this world, An Lai has occasionally had this dream. Before the age of 8, An Lai had traveled through time and couldn't remember anything at all. He only remembered the things after returning to An's home with his mother. His mother passed away soon after due to illness, leaving him and his sister to rely on at his uncle's house. He felt that the man in his dream was his father, allowing them to live an ordinary life, but when he saw the scene in his dream, he never wanted to live an ordinary life again. He only wants to cultivate like the man in his dream, possess magical power, and even if he dies again, he doesn't want to live a miserable life like this for just a few decades. There are still so many beans, but the time for making tofu is greatly shortened. As for taking stinky tofu to the Sutra Pavilion to copy Buddhism and practice in the dumbest way, 1 or 2 hours can be taken out every day. The Diamond Sutra, Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra, Thousand-Handed Tathagata Sutra, Maitreya Future Sutra, Ksitigarbha Rebirth Sutra, Karmic Reincarnation Sutra, Divine Eye Heart Sutra, Demon Subduing Dragon Palm in a blink of an eye, another year passed. At the age of 13, An Lai transcribed scriptures from the temple for a year, but still couldn't sense the energy. However, he finished copying all over 300 scriptures in the temple and burned them to ashes in front of the Buddha. It was unclear whether the Buddha could receive them, but An Lai remembered these 300 Buddhist teachings and believed that all the teachings were well established. Nowadays, when it comes to Buddhist teachings, he is much better than other practitioners and monks like Huang. Although he did not feel the magic power mentioned by Huang, it was unclear whether it was due to aging or other reasons. An Lai only felt that his body was gradually becoming stronger, the grinding was getting faster, and making tofu became easier. Having a clear understanding of the gods, one becomes more alert to the things around them. By reading the scriptures once, one can remember them all, but for some unknown reason. Recently, when he went to the Sutra Pavilion, An Lai always felt a pair of eyes staring at him in the dark, which made him feel quite cold. He had to silently recite the calm heart mantra, and then continue to copy, burn scriptures, and worship Buddha. Strangely enough, the elder martial brother he was familiar with had not been found in succession. Even elder martial brother Huang's stinky tofu had kept its share for several days. In recent days, another new disciple came to take tofu pudding for the host, but he didn't know what to ask. It doesn't matter if we don't see them, it's just that we need to invite senior brother Volcano to bring them to the city below the mountain every month. Otherwise, our sister won't have any money to use and we haven't heard from each other yet, which is frustrating. But he couldn't go down the mountain, thinking that if he didn't see them again tomorrow, he would go find Widow senior brother to take a day off, so that he could also go down the mountain to give money. I finally see you, senior brother Huang. Why don't you want stinky tofu? Senior brother Huang, don't run away, senior brother Huang, your head. Bang 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 bang, the sound of the third watch. Ah, he exclaimed in surprise. An Lai suddenly sat up from the bed and looked at the familiar room in the darkness. It turned out to be a nightmare, which was too scary. Since he went to copy scriptures, he has rarely had nightmares. What's going on today? How could he dream of senior brother Huang like this? An Lai got out of bed, put on his clothes, closed the door, and walked towards the next tofu room. The surroundings were pitch black, but now An Lai could see clearly in the darkness. Halfway through, while most monks were asleep, a human figure floated above Bai Yen Temple, dressed in a black robe and even wrapped in a black scarf, revealing only a pair of white and black eyes. Looking down at Bai Yen Temple below, he chuckled. What a deceitful tactic. Borrowing the territory of Buddhism to practice magic and cultivation. If I hadn't made some breakthroughs recently, it would have been difficult for me to detect the towering bloodlight here. I'm afraid the monk temple is already covered in bones. But it's also okay, you're mistaken. I took your souls, but I acted on behalf of heaven. After speaking, he threw out a small flag, which rose in the wind and was now thicker than his waist, several tens of zhang high. A large flag with a yellow background and a red border fluttered in the wind, emitting yellow mist and falling into the Bai Yen Temple below. Waves of strong winds howled in all directions of Bai Yen Temple, followed by almost transparent souls walking out of the darkness. They all looked like monks in the temple, with a dull expression and red eyes. This was the reason why they had recently consumed blood cannibalistic souls. Divine souls are bloodthirsty, which is why there are so many blood demons in this temple. As soon as all the monks were here, a sudden change occurred. 2 doors were pushed open, and an old monk walked out with a kind expression and a white eyebrow fluttering. If it weren't for his blood-red eyes, people might have thought he was a virtuous monk. On the other side, Fire pushed open the door of the tofu room. At this moment, he was already grinding beans, but he was uncontrollable and confused. He walked towards the courtyard in his thin clothes. The 2 of them bypassed the corridor and walked under the black-clad cultivator, with the old monk and the black-clad cultivator facing each other. Amitabha Buddha, why did you come to our Bai Yin temple? Our Bai Yin temple has been around for 200 years, and there is not a single high-ranking cultivator in the temple. I'm not satisfied with it, but I'll wait a few years. I will gather all the necessary resources for you. Even as a small foundation-building cultivator, you dare to speak up and refine lower-level disciples to strengthen yourself. Our holy cult is also inferior. Now that I have discovered your blood nest, it is my duty to take your souls. Today, let's all come to my Xianhuang flag and become spiritual food. After speaking, he pointed to the floating yellow flag in mid-air. The yellow flag shook and a great suction came from it. A figure floated out of the old monk's body and quickly plunged into the flag. The flag's aura surged, but it instantly shrunk to the length of chopsticks and fell into the hands of the black-robed cultivator. The black-robed man landed and looked at the unconscious mortal boy on the ground, whispering to himself. This son has a strong body and a stable spirit. He has practiced the method of refining his body in Buddhism, and may just be able to restrain the drawbacks of my ghost cultivation techniques. Immediately, a yellow light rolled up and on the ground, looked at him, and then said. I'm afraid I won't be able to escape those cow noses for what I'm doing today. Since this is a place to hide dirt and grime, it's quite unsightly to leave behind. It's better to destroy the traces. Immediately, a burning object was thrown down, instantly staining the Bai Yin temple. The raging fire instantly illuminated the entire sky, and countless ordinary people at the foot of the mountain trembled with fear as they hid at home. Some even knelt down and kowtowed to Bai Yin temple. Gradually, the originally red flames turned black, and the red and black flames could be seen from dozens of miles away. The big fire burned for 2 whole days. When the fire was extinguished on the 3rd day, the officials in the city were entangled in 50 or 60 strong men. They bravely went up the mountain to inspect, and saw that the once spectacular Bai Yin temple had no trace, leaving only a huge pit. There were countless white bones on the black soil in the pit, emitting bursts of black air. Is this a Buddhist temple or a demon cave? It is said that the county magistrate's wife fell ill the next day and did not enter the grain of rice. Fortunately, she was rescued by a Taoist who came to inspect the situation of Bai Yin temple upon hearing the news. She opened an altar in front of the huge pit of Bai Yin temple and practiced for 3 days and 3 nights. After reciting the reincarnation spell for 3 days, she finally dissipated the black energy from Bai Yin temple. From then on, within 1,000 miles of Bai Yin temple, every household burned down their Buddhist temple and once again presented a long-standing portrait of the founder of Taoism. However, this place no longer believes in Buddhism. Uncle, where did you say my brother went? He doesn't want to be a little girl anymore. A pink-carved jade-carved little girl, wearing a dark and slightly oversized cotton jacket and pants, cried and twitched her nose when she learned from her Aunt Zheng that her brother had not brought back last month's silver money, and said to a man in front of her. The man was quite robust, but he was in Shangfu, the uncle of An Xiaoya. At this moment, he also had a worried face and a restless heart, ignoring the little girl's crying. Perhaps he knew the result in his heart, but it was not easy to tell the little girl openly. There was a woman beside him, but his wife, Zheng Shi, said harshly, "Cry and cry, and you know how to cry. Your brother has always been disobedient. Tofu doesn't make tofu well. It's better to make a variety of bean skins and dried tofu. You are cheated to go up the mountain. If you lose these 3 taels of silver later, how can you live like a crying loser? Enough, the middle-aged man shouted loudly, finally making his wife stop speaking, but also making An Xiaoya cry even louder. Brother! Where are you? Xiaoya misses you, come back quickly. Watching her uncle and aunt slip away and speak coldly, the little girl slowly sat down on the ground, burying her head in sobs. Chapter 3. Child Adopts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Go and call the little girl in for dinner. The middle-aged man coldly ordered. I want to go to you. That's your niece who settled down, not my Zhuang family. We're not in the same family. She has been living in our house for a long time, eating from our house. How old is this, how many years are there, and how much does our family spend per day? Have you ever thought about it? Previously, bringing back 3 taels of silver per month was not enough, and in the future, there will be no money left. How can we live these days? We can only make our family and Chun stop supplementing food, otherwise we won't be able to afford it. The harsh woman also roared out at this moment, her voice sharp like a ghost. At this moment, her only son was present, but her aura was extremely high. And Shangfu looked over and shouted, Are you going? I won't go, I'll just die and let your family live. Anyway, I'm just an outsider. No matter how much I worry about this family, I'm still just an outsider. I should do whatever I want to do. After finishing his meal, he didn't eat and threw his chopsticks before leaving. Go and bring your sister in for dinner. And Shangfu sighed and said to the 15 or 16-year-old boy on the table. The young man stood up and picked up An Xiaoya, who had cried and slept on the ground. Wake her up and say, Xiaoya, come on, let's eat. Big brother, is my brother unable to come back? And Xiaoya is going to cry again. Who said that? Brother Lai was saved by the gods and went to practice. He will come back in a few years. You should eat well, otherwise he will not be happy to see you lose weight when he comes back. At the age of 15 or 16, the boy had his own ideas and was extremely fond of this lovely cousin. However, he didn't understand why his mother never liked his cousin and cousin. Perhaps it was because they followed his aunt's surname An. He has been educated by the school teacher for many years, and at this moment, he is full of justice. He will not care about the money and family resources that his parents care about at this moment. The little girl finally picked up her chopsticks and slowly started eating. She ate a bowl of white rice with a few slices of vegetable leaves, very slowly. The middle-aged man's face was uncertain, and he got up and left the dining room. The sky is getting dark, and the moon has just risen. I'll tell you, at least I can have a meal at my brother's house. The girl is 7 years old and can start working, doing laundry, cooking, fetching water, and sweeping the floor. At least she won't wander on the streets. When his brother was 8 years old, he started grinding tofu to feed the 2 of them. Now that he's not here, he has to support himself. Should I take care of her? Besides, my nephew has a pure background, is also a talented person, and comes from a relatively affluent family. Marrying her is a blessing she has cultivated for 8 lifetimes, and she is the one who enjoys good fortune. The harsh woman is now eager to throw away this loser. Her maternal nephew has been ugly since childhood, and at a young age, he has grown up to be 5 or 3 years old. He doesn't go to school and roams the streets, with a stinky and mischievous demeanor that makes people feel disgusted. Enough, let's talk about it when she's a little older. The middle-aged man became restless upon hearing this and let out a loud roar, causing the room to become quiet. From then on, there was a little girl in their courtyard who was sweeping the floor and wiping the table. Her clean big cotton clothes were gone, but she was wearing the black clothes of a servant. Take a look, I broke another vase for 18 taels of silver, and it was smashed like this. This is such a despicable family, this family can't even afford it. Uncle, I don't have it, a small voice trembled with tears. Take a look, you can't even hold on to a chicken soup. It's a chicken soup for An Chun to nourish his body. Not to mention the lack of money, it affects our county trial. How can we get by with this? We can't live this life anymore, my son's life is so hard. The woman cried loudly, as if a bowl of chicken soup had really affected her son's future. Why did you break the chicken soup? The middle-aged man asked with a calm face. Uncle, it was originally carried over by Wu Mama, but she said she had something to do and asked me to bring it over. Unexpectedly, it was too hot and Wu Mama even touched my foot. Look, my hands are all red. My little hand was red, and there were 2 large blisters on it. After finishing speaking, An Xiaoya burst into tears with sadness. She didn't mean to do it, but felt very aggrieved. It was just that she was too young to understand the evil intentions behind it. Sigh. The man waved his sleeve and left. You see, this girl deliberately cut my silk coat and broke it. It's 5 taels of silver, and I can't bear to wear it. She's so naughty at such a young age. I don't care how she teaches me, but I'll pay it off in the future. Our family is really going to be ruined by her. The woman was once again impatient, tears swirling in her eyes, as if she had truly suffered great injustice. Xiaoya, why are you doing this? Can't you do things well and get along well with your aunt? And Shangfu roared angrily, unable to bear it and losing his sanity. And Xiaoya knelt on the ground in front of her wet with tears. After a while, she looked up at her uncle and aunt and slowly said. Uncle, I am willing to leave and live alone, even if I want to make tofu. Can you push the stone mill? Your aunt is considering it for you. His mother has a nephew from her family. He has a comfortable life, and although he is not as wealthy as us when we settle down, he does not lack food and clothing. I have also accumulated some wealth when I settle down. In the future, as long as you manage your business diligently, you can accumulate your own wealth. Do you understand? Zheng's words were finally spoken by An Shangfu. The little girl shed tears on the ground, looking up at her restless uncle and then at the harsh woman who was proud. At a young age, she felt as if her heart was completely disheartened, but deep down she remembered her brother, who made her eat and dress warmly, and never let her worry about her work. Brother, I miss you so much. Ah! An exclaimed in surprise from a dark cave, but An had a nightmare when he saw his sister running out of the yard. He couldn't stop shouting and saw his aunt's harsh appearance, as if constantly accusing her of her back. Sweat poured down from the forehead. Where is this? Looking at the surrounding stone walls, An Lai confirmed that this was not Bai Yin Temple, and there was a smell of fallen leaves rotting in the air floating from outside. Kid, just wake up. Your family's life-saving benefactor is here. Have you figured out how to repay me? I'm not a benevolent person in the ghost sect, you have to bring something to repay me. A voice full of unknown male and female energy came out, and An Lai tried hard to look into the shadows. Despite his excellent night vision ability, he never noticed where the person was for a moment. When he saw it clearly, his whole body was instantly covered in sweat. In the darkness, there was actually a figure sitting there, without any facial features, only seeing the eyes and not lighting the lights. His whole body was pitch black, and he could only see a rough picture. Seeing it at this moment made his heart shiver with coldness. An Lai's heart trembled greatly as he silently recited the calm heart curse. Fortunately, he had lived a lifetime and was still calm at the moment. However, he needed to calm down and first understand the truth. Why did he come here? He was clearly grinding beans in the temple. You're a human or a ghost, isn't I grinding tofu in the temple? How could I come here? Kid, answer me first before I can answer your question. The tone of the black-robed cultivator is not good. This is a cultivator with a strange temperament, but it should be a person. An Lai had some speculations in his heart. To meet you, I'm An Lai. I'm a factotum in the White Rock Temple. I have worked in the tofu shop for more than 2 years. Old and tender tofu, soybean milk, tofu pudding, bean skin, and stinky tofu are all my specialties. If you like bean food, you can taste it for your seniors. As for other things, you have nothing, which is not enough to repay you for saving your life. At this moment, An Lai's brain was running rapidly, and the person in front of him was definitely not a righteous person. A righteous person would not speak to him in this way. That's the demon, it's unclear whether it's a cult or a demon. Chapter 4. Apprentices of the Ghost Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Humph, I won't eat your tofu. I've already burned down Bai Yen Temple completely. Why, do you still want to go back and make tofu? The man in black couldn't see his face clearly, only feeling his voice cold and his speech quite awkward. An Lai's heart was greatly shaken. There were not many people familiar with him at the Bai Yen Temple in Nuoda, and he only cared about those few people. However, upon hearing this news, his heart was also quite shaken. Ah, why did the senior burn down Bai Yen Temple? What happened to the senior brothers in the temple? I have to ask you, your Bai Yen Temple should also recruit new disciples every year, and the number of disciples in the temple can be seen increasing by 1. Upon hearing this, An Lai was once again shocked. He had been in the temple for more than 2 years, unable to practice, and had been grinding beans and making bean food in the tofu room. He rarely walked in the temple and knew even fewer people. However, in the past 2 years, the total amount of bean food did not exceed the share of 30 people. But every year, there are about 10 new disciples coming in, but I have been accustomed to so many people for a long time. I didn't think much before, but now there is a hint of speculation, but I am in a cold sweat. Why? Lai remained silent for a long time and finally asked. I don't know where the Bai Yen Temple got this inferior blood-eating technique from. It should be able to improve their cultivation slightly quickly. I think your senior brothers should have cultivated a good physique technique, with some pure magical power in their blood and flesh, but they were treated as precious medicines by the host and consumed. Your tofu is like eating some refreshing vegetarian dishes after eating too much meat. Do you understand? Ah, precious medicine, refined and taken. An Lai seemed to vaguely recall the bright red eyes of the abbot, as well as the nightmare of dreaming of senior brother Huang. If there was light in the cave, you could see An Lai kneeling on both knees at this moment, his face pale, covering his mouth with his hands. Finally, he didn't cover it, and he stood on the ground, retching. Perhaps because he hadn't eaten anything, he didn't vomit anything. After a moment, suddenly his stomach growled incessantly, but he was already extremely hungry. The hunger level should be 2 to 3 days without eating. An Lai's heart gradually calmed down, and he realized that this black-robed man must have truly saved his own small life. Turning to the black-robed man, he kowtowed and said, "Thank you for saving my life, senior. Now that I have nothing, I can only kowtow to you." After saying this, he began to kowtow with a bang, but after kowtowing for an unknown amount of time, he felt dizzy and seemed to be hungry. Enough, let's eat something first. The black-robed man threw an oiled paper packet and rolled over to An Lai. Picking up and opening the oil paper, it turned out to be a mantu. Although it was hard to freeze, An Lai still tried to bear the nausea and ate the mantu. "Senior, due to blocked meridians and lack of cultivation qualifications, I have been grinding tofu in the temple all along, but I rarely go out. I don't know where this place is." An Lai asked carefully. Who said you don't have the cultivation qualifications? Your body has already entered the stage of refining, and your foundation is relatively solid. However, your divine soul is stable, but you haven't yet cultivated your magic, so there is no obvious feeling. The voice of the black-robed man hummed in An Lai's ear. An Lai was shocked in his heart and said, "I have the aptitude for cultivation. Why doesn't the monk from Bai Yin Temple accept me? He has consulted with senior brother Huang about cultivation, but does he have the talent to cultivate the path of enlightenment, which is not innate in our path? It should be true that there are no monks in the temple who truly practice the path of enlightenment, so there is no one to help me test this kind of talent. I copied Buddhist scriptures for a year, but I started learning on my own. My body was strong and I had already felt it, but I just explored it myself, and I don't know what level I have reached now. At present, it has been confirmed that Bai Yin Temple is a demon cave. It was set on fire by this mysterious black-clothed man, and I don't know where to go in the future. Thinking of the little sister who is staying at my uncle's house, I am temporarily unable to send money back, but it is my uncle's niece. I am not here, so I should take care of one or two. However, thinking of my aunt's snobbish face, I feel a wave of irritability. At this moment, his own situation was worrying. The black-clothed man should be a practitioner with profound cultivation, but he did not seem to be on the right path. He did not know the thoughts of the black-clothed man, nor did he know what he was seeking to save himself. When he was in a dilemma, he heard again. This place is located in the far west of Bai Yin Temple, 100,000 miles away. After speaking, he laughed twice more. What, after fainting for these 2 or 3 days, it was already 100,000 miles away. An Lai's heart suddenly became bitter, but at this moment, there was no need to think about it. The black-robed man definitely wouldn't send him back. He saved himself and took him on a journey of 100,000 miles. He must have been useful to him. An Lai's mind was rapidly changing at this moment, but she had thought of countless possibilities. It seems that only by worshipping him as a teacher can there be a glimmer of hope now, otherwise as a 13-year-old boy, how can he survive? My senior said that I have the ability to cultivate, and I am also quite clever. I am also very capable of serving my elders on a daily basis. I wonder if I have the privilege of bowing to my senior's door. I will pay my respects in the morning and evening in the future, and I dare not be careless. If my senior has the drive, I will definitely not disappoint my senior. After finishing speaking, An kowtowed to the man in black and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Kid is actually smart. I'll ask you, what kind of martial arts are you practicing now? After speaking, his eyes lit up by 3 points, and he felt the palpitations. To report to the senior, the young man did not have any cultivation qualifications tested at Bai Yin Temple. However, he relied on his skill of grinding tofu and was taken into the temple as a laborer who only grinds tofu, but was not taught any cultivation techniques. The only known skill is senior brother Huang, who likes to eat stinky tofu and secretly passed it on to my Vajrasutra. He has practiced it for more than a year, but he has been unable to sense the power. I thought I could not practice without qualification, but I didn't want to be lucky enough to be seen by the seniors that I have some foundation. Oh, it turned out to be the diamond body refined from the Diamond Sutra. The man in black fell into contemplation. The deeper my lineage of cultivation, the more dangerous it becomes. Remembering my master's tragic situation, the soul lamp is dim, and now he is even more unaware of his death. However, it has made him feel a bit scared, and he has not found a suitable person to use Buddhist techniques to refine his body. Now that he is in agreement in all aspects, is this fate's will? Kid, do you know who I am, what kind of martial arts I have practiced, what consequences I will have, and how much hardship I will have to put in? You don't want to know about all of this, so why don't you apprentice? Feeling that the tone of the black-robed man was slightly subdued, An Lai's center was slightly calm, but it was not worth considering. In the morning, I heard that evil cultivators only seek benefits, do not speak of legal principles, and like to do as they please, always disregarding the life and death of others. At this moment, An Lai can only hold on to it to the end. I am not afraid of being laughed at by my seniors. I am determined to pursue the Tao with all my heart, and even if the road ahead is difficult, I will not diminish my determination to pursue the Tao. I earnestly request that you accept me as a beginner and become a teacher for a day, so that my disciples will never fail. After speaking, he fell to the ground again. Looking at the young man in front of him, the ghost Taoist didn't think much. In his opinion, practicing was originally about cultivating qi and luck. At this moment, luck and even reaching the will of heaven are enough. Okay, now that you have almost completed your body cultivation, I don't have any other disciples. It's not impossible to accept you as an beginner. I am one of the 5 scattered people of the Huangquan holy sect, known as the Ghost Taoist. When my lineage cultivates the Ghost Taoist technique, my appearance will be completely destroyed like mine when it reaches its peak. People and ghosts will despise me, and I will suffer from the backlash of evil spirits every day. Moreover, the technique is easily restrained by the Zhuang technique. Do you still want to learn from me? The people of the Ghost Road speak astonishingly. After listening to it, An Lai's heart also trembled. This martial arts technique sounded so sinister. Although it was not the first time he had heard of a ghost cultivator since then, when he heard his senior brothers talk about it in the past, it was not so terrifying. Not only is he unrecognizable and suffering from the backlash of evil spirits, but he is also restrained by the Zhuang technique. Isn't it true that he will be restrained for a while under the sun, but at this moment he has no other choice? His obsession is cultivation. Since learning that he can cultivate immortals and seek the way in this world, he has aspired to become a practitioner in this life and live for thousands of years. I just didn't expect such a situation today. Now that the expert is in front, as for the harm he said, it hasn't arrived yet. I can only beg to accept myself and save my life before speaking. I saw An Lai cutting off the railway with his nails. I am willing. I heard that practicing is going against the heavens. There are only various benefits to be gained, but there is no pain to be added. I have made up my mind, please accept my disciple, senior, and I will never repent. Ha ha ha, good. Although I'm a bit older, I have achieved success in my body cultivation and a firm Taoist mind. Practicing my ghost path technique should reduce my suffering. Obviously, at this moment, the ghost Taoist is in a happy mood and speaking more smoothly. If that's the case, then let's learn from the teacher. Master is here, disciple, and comes to pay his respects. In the future, disciples will practice diligently, listen to Master's teachings at all times, and will surely carry forward our lineage. After speaking, An Lai respectfully paid his respects to the ghost Taoist. After finishing the ceremony, he didn't even get up when he saw a move from the ghost path, but An Lai flew towards him. Chapter 5. Introduction to January. You are listening at novelfull.audio. An Lai felt his body drift past, and a cold hand pressed down on his shoulder, placing him cross-legged on the ground and sitting him down. Immediately, his 2 icy palms were placed on his back, and the cold voice of a ghostly person could be heard in his ear. Our meridian has always been a single transmission. Today, I will help you clear your meridians and guide yin qi into your body. From then on, for the first 10 days, you will need to operate 1 major cycle every day. For the next 10 days, you will need to operate 2 major cycles every day, and for the next 10 days, you will need to operate 3 major cycles every day, depending on your personal qualifications. The cultivation method is called Ghost Character Technique of Huangquan Dafa, which involves absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into the body through the acupoints of the body, activating the meridians, removing yang and retaining yin, refining the essence above, and storing yin energy below. Cultivating to a higher level not only enhances one's own strength, but also nourishes yin objects with external forces. It nourishes yin objects with one's own essence, blood, magic, and other vital souls, and can increase combat power when used against enemies. An Lai only felt 2 cold breaths, penetrating his body through the hands of the ghost Taoist and slowly flowing throughout his body along the meridians, causing a cold sensation wherever he passed. Suddenly, a burst of heart-wrenching pain came, and waves of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. However, An Lai's body remained motionless like a rock, as if his body did not belong to him. Without a word, he was able to hold back everything. At this moment, the ghost path person is leading the yin energy, impacting the blocked meridians in An Lai's body. Although many years have passed, the pain of pounding the meridians back then is still vividly remembered by the ghost Taoist. The piercing pain made him soaked all over and couldn't help but tremble. So many times in times of life and death crisis, I recalled the extreme pain at that time, and then I regained my strength and fought a way out. He didn't think it was a bad thing, but rather it could increase the morale of their cultivators. Practice is like this. With more experience, one will always grow faster. At some point, his palms left his back, and An Lai was already soaked through. The heart-wrenching pain and cold chill, at this moment, his body was trembling in waves. Eating this Dingmai pill now requires repairing and stabilizing meridians, otherwise it will be even more painful tomorrow. At this moment, the ghost Taoist handed over a pill. Thank you, Master. Using all his strength, An Lai took the elixir from the hands of the ghost Taoist. The elixir was the size of a pigeon egg, bright and golden, emitting a refreshing fragrance. Slowly stuffing it into his mouth, he could no longer sit still, fell down and lay on the ground, silently reciting the calm heart curse in his heart. It is indeed effective and can reduce some pain. I silently recited the Diamond Sutra again, but my body was slowly warming up and the pain was slowly disappearing. However, I am not sure about the intentions of my master, the ghost Taoist, and I dare not recite other scriptures anymore. Today, I am extremely tired, but I have fallen asleep deeply. Xiaoya, don't run away. It's my brother, Ah. Awakened from his dream, An Lai suddenly sat up in the room, ignoring the slight pain on his body. He also dreamed of a little girl who ran out to play alone. He couldn't stop and chased after her, but couldn't catch up. I watched helplessly as the little girl disappeared before his eyes, feeling a twinge of pain in my heart. It turned out that heartache was more profound and intense than physical pain. Are you awake? Go find some food outside the cave and come back. After speaking, the ghost Taoist threw a knife over and it landed at his feet with a clang. The blade is 3 feet long, but it is covered in rust. It seems that it has been stored for an unknown amount of time and has already rusted. An Lai didn't care either. After bowing to the ghost Taoist, he held it in his hand and strode out. The ghost Taoist looked at An Lai, whose body had recovered well, but his stiff face under the black scarf showed a hint of a smile. The sunlight outside the cave was bright, and it seemed like noon. An Lai walked quickly to the entrance of the cave and then took a few steps back. Damn it, I almost fell off. It's like a cliff going out here. An looked at the primitive jungle far below her feet, but in her heart she was cursing. There are several deer calls coming from below. There should be a group of fat deer, and there should be the howling of wild boars. It should be a wild boar with its piglets foraging here, but how can I get down? Looking at the 100-foot-high cliff and the smooth cliffs on both sides, Anshin thought to herself, is the rusty long sword in her hand a sharp weapon? Then he swung his knife towards the stone wall. With 2 clanging sounds, only a few scattered sparks emerged from the stone wall. This, however, has little effect. As if thinking of something, An looked up and carefully looked into the sky. Under the sunlight, a group of black spots were hovering in the extremely high sky, which should be vultures with the same purpose as him, feeding on carrion. Now it seems that this is the only way. Play dead. An Lai and Yi lay down, motionless for half an hour, only listening to the sound of the wind. An Lai's slightly open eyes saw a vulture slowly fall down, landing in the distance. It swayed and walked over, vigorously extending its neck. Its iron beak grabbed the flesh on An Lai's arm, swinging left and right, causing waves of burning pain. Oh, An Lai was cursing her mother from the bottom of her heart. I'll endure it again. The vulture didn't actually peck through its skin, but it was puzzled. It took 2 steps closer and pecked at the tender flesh on An Lai's neck. Livestock, come and die. With a loud shout, An Lai suddenly opened his eyes and reached out to grab the vulture's neck, which was about to be pulled back. With both hands exerting force, he pulled the vulture into the hole. Nowadays, An Lai's body is no longer the young man who has to exert all his strength to push the stone mill. He has at least 400 to 500 pounds of brute force in his hands. When the vulture didn't have time to react, he pressed his body against its long neck, grabbed the long knife on the ground, and slashed it down. With a thud, the hot blood sprayed on An Lai's face. However, An Lai felt a sense of joy in his heart. He hadn't been drinking water for a few days and was already thirsty and unbearable. Despite the vulture's body still struggling fiercely, he bit into the vulture's neck, which spewed out blood and sucked fiercely. The hot blood flowed into his abdomen, and the warmth of his thighs spread throughout his body. In the end, his body became hot, just like soaking in a hot spring in winter, feeling comfortable. Seeing that the vulture had completely lost its struggle, An Lai opened his mouth and released his hand. Such a big vulture probably needs to eat 2 meals. Fortunately, I have experience killing chickens before. First, pluck the feathers, then go to the organs and have barbecue. An Lai was quite excited in his heart, but he didn't care about the stench in his mouth. He pulled out the feathers of the vulture clean, then opened his stomach and removed his internal organs. Suddenly, he discovered a problem. How to barbecue without firewood. An Lai, covered in dirt, hugged a whole vulture and walked into the cave. The ghost Taoist was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, thinking to himself that he could only ask his master if he was angry. He spoke up. "Master, I caught a vulture. Do you have any fire? I can roast it." I heard a cold voice coming. "No, just eat raw." "Master, do you need some to eat?" An Lai asked carefully. "No need." "Yes." "Well, this vulture meat is not bad either, it's quite strong." I don't know if it's because he practiced Buddhism or the ghost word technique, but these 20 or 30-pound vultures, except for their bones, have all eaten up. 1 month passed in a blink of an eye. That evening, 2 people in black walked out of the cave, while the tall and thin ghost Taoist in front was still wrapped in a black robe, emitting waves of An energy all over. A few steps behind him followed An Lai, dressed in a black robe. However, at this moment, he had changed his appearance and no longer looked as embarrassed as a month ago. He was a bit taller, dressed in a decent black robe, which made him appear quite fair and his facial features more three-dimensional. His handsome and delicate face also showed no sadness or joy at this moment, as if he had changed a person, and he followed the ghost path person towards the outside of the cave. Today, the ghost character technique has achieved a small success, so I should be returning to the sect with my master. It's just that I don't know what the situation is in the sect, but it's said that the disciples of the demon cult prioritize strength. Although the master is one of the 5 scattered people of the demon cult, he cannot guard by his side every day. It seems that he will have to rely on himself in the future. An Lai tightened the steel knife in his hand, feeling a bit excited in his heart. Chapter 6. Huangquan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As night approached, in the damp alleyway after rain, a small figure carrying firewood was struggling to move forward in the mud. The firewood on her shoulder was even taller than hers, and her smooth hair had already been soaked in sweat, cluttered against her head. The firewood leaned against the wall, and her dark little hands wiped the sweat off her face. After taking a break, she walked forward again and stopped in front of a small courtyard. It turned out she had arrived home. After a moment of silence, he lifted his leg and walked towards the inside. Suddenly, a short leg stretched out from under the wall, blocking the small foot that was extending forward. With a crisp cry of, "Ah!" the girl fell forward and fell to the ground. A bundle of wood clattered down on her body, sinking her into the sewage. "And Xiaoya, you're too stupid. You can even stumble while walking. Look, you've soaked the firewood you just bought. I've never seen someone as useless as you." An 8 or 9-year-old boy burst out next to him, shouting angrily. The young man has a plump head and big ears, with a smug smile on his face. He dares to show off to me and ignore me. Today, he will teach you a good lesson, a little maid who nobody wants. Useless things make you cry. Get up, put the firewood in the firewood room. You're not allowed to eat tonight. Remember to come to my room tomorrow morning and pour out the urinal first. Young master, I have to put a whole pot of golden water out every day when I wake up. After speaking, she didn't care about the girl on the ground, her bulky body, and swaggered into the cafeteria. The girl tried her best to push the firewood on her back to the ground, but didn't care about the mud on her body. She cried and dragged the firewood towards the neighboring house. Her eyes were filled with tears, and now the only cotton jacket was also wet. In this cold winter, thinking of the thin layer of quilt and looking at the firewood in front of her, she was not qualified to burn clothes for cooking tomorrow. Suddenly, she was particularly afraid of dark. The cold winter wind blows into a room without window paper, filled with tools for labor, brooms for sweeping the floor, water buckets for carrying water, baskets for carrying things. And a pile of firewood. On a dilapidated wooden bed in the corner, there is now a small figure lying on it, with a damp cotton jacket covering the thin quilt, but also wetting it. Her slender face was emitting heat, and she was shouting, "Water," and "Brother," from time to time. In this remote woodshed, no one could hear this faint voice. A towering mountain range appeared before An Lai's eyes. Even if he followed the ghost path flying in mid-air, he only reached the foot of this mountain peak. Dark clouds covered the already dark sky, making it difficult for An Lai, who had good eyesight, to see how high and wide this mountain range was. The ghost Taoist brought An Lai and landed at the foot of the mountain, casually striking a magic spell forward. After a wave of spiritual power, a blue stone-paved avenue, about 5 zhuang wide, appeared at the foot, all the way up, not only leading to where. Entering 100 meters, a mountain gate composed of giant stones appeared in front of the two, with the words, Huangquan, written on it. On the left stone pillar, there is an inscription that reads, "From the poor to the green, descending to the underworld." On the right stone pillar, it is engraved, "Once you enter the holy sect, choose a day to fly as an immortal." The two of them headed upwards, and many black-robed disciples either quickly dodged or stopped to salute, ignoring all the ghosts and Taoist priests. Just carrying An Lai up the stone steps, the disciples of Huangquan who fell behind gave much guidance to this short-haired young man, probably speculating on their own. On both sides of the avenue, there are pavilions and caves everywhere in the mountains, as well as places similar to mortal markets, which are quite lively. It can be said that it is a mortal town, but these people are all disciples of the Huangquan sect. Ordinary people rush around for money, and cultivators are busy with cultivation. At this moment, they are no different from ordinary people in the city below the mountain. Passing through a huge square and entering a main hall, a rotating disciple wearing a black robe immediately stood up and saluted, saying, "Disciple Ma Shangdao has seen Ghost Master Uncle before. I wonder if Ghost Master Uncle has something important to do when he comes today. Well, get my disciple an identity token and light the soul lamp." The ghost Taoist was not polite either, he directly said his request, then turned around and left, leaving in with someone here. "Yes, Master, take your time." After speaking, I looked at An Lai, who had short hair and was 13 or 14 years old. He was fair and gentle, and his smile was somewhat pleasing, but he didn't have the aura of a ghost. "Little brother, come here. I have seen Senior Brother Ma before. I have just arrived, so I need to ask Senior Brother to take good care of me in the future." An Lai saw Ma Shangdao looking at him and immediately approached to salute. "Easy to say, easy to say." Ma Shangdao's face turned joyful, he turned around and took out a jade plaque, engraved An Lai's name, and handed it over. "Junior Brother An Lai, this is your identity token, which is a voucher for recording the achievements of your sect and exchanging items. It is also the basis for the elders to personally pass on to their disciples that they receive 3 valley clearing pills and 3 spiritual stones as cultivation resources every month. It is also a symbol that our disciples need to carry with them when entering and exiting the sect's main formation. The rotating disciple Ma Shangdao, as his name suggests, has a horse-like face but is meticulous in his actions. His slender eyes are shining brightly, but at this moment, he serves as a kind reminder. Yes, little brother, please remember. Thank you, senior brother Ma, for your guidance. At the same time, Ma Shangdao took out a jade butterfly and engraved the message of An Lai, leaving a divine soul mark on the jade butterfly. The jade butterfly slowly lit up in a faint light and was stored under the ghost Taoist by Ma Shangdao. The power of cultivators in this realm can change their martial arts and undergo further training. Their bodies can also undergo changes in their martial arts, and even more so, they can transform themselves through the technique of seizing and giving up reincarnation. However, the divine soul mark cannot be changed. After the sect leaves the divine soul mark, they become formal disciples of the Huangquan sect. An Lai joined the sect today and saw such a large cultivation sect for the first time. He saw with his own eyes that the disciples of the Huangquan sect were not as fierce as the disciples of the demon sect he had heard of in the past. It was only because he did not know whether he followed his master's ghost path or not. Senior brother Ma, I'm new here and I'm not sure about my whereabouts. I don't know what we need to pay attention to as new disciples of the sect. The master only brought me to see senior brother, but at this moment, I'm not bothering the 2 masters. Please give me some guidance, senior brother. An Lai had a very good upbringing since childhood. Although he had been in poverty for several years, a few words also made Ma Shangdao feel quite comfortable. As an ordinary disciple, he could not ignore it, but as a disciple of the ghost Taoist, he cannot underestimate it. Well, then I will talk to my junior brother about the hierarchical relationship between us, the Yellow Spring Holy Sect. Excuse me, senior brother. An Lai is another gift. Ma Shangdao touched the beardless person on his doorstep and pretended to pose, saying, Our Huangquan Holy Sect is one of the 4 great holy sects in this world. Within our Huangquan Holy Sect, the sect leader is powerful and leads the Huangquan Holy Sect. However, there are instructions, and no one dares to disobey them. Under the sect leader, there are 2 major guardians personally appointed by the sect leader, most of whom are highly cultivated and strategic individuals. They are the left and right arms of the sect leader and usually lead the elders of Huangquan sect. Next is the envoy from all directions, with the most disciples in the sect. He has cultivated a joint attack battle array and runs around openly, making him the top combat force in the sect. The status of the 5 scattered people and the 4 envoys in the sect is almost the same. The 5 scattered people of heaven, earth, man, God, and ghost are unpredictable in their daily lives, with divine dragons appearing first but not last. They are the top experts in the sect with the least appearance in their daily lives. Each of the 5 scattered people has their own strengths, upholds the sect's teachings, and explores the virtual reality of all parties. After Ma Shangdao finished speaking, he glanced at An Lai and saw that his eyes were clear without any smug expression. However, he said that this An Lai junior brother was quite good, and then said. Next are the 6 major altar masters, all stationed in various locations outside the sect gate. Outside the sect gate, there are also important areas of the Huangquan sect, which are the first bridge for communication between the sect gate and the outside world, and also the first line of defense for the sect gate. After speaking, I secretly thought to myself. At present, although the 5 scattered individuals rarely appear, their disciples are all outstanding among the disciples of the sect, which is a result of every actual struggle. However, this ghost Taoist master uncle is an alternative, different from many other scattered disciples, with a single lineage. Therefore, this An Lai is the first disciple under his name, so it is even more important to be careful. Thank you, senior brother, for your understanding. It turns out that my Huangquan holy sect is so powerful. An Lai's heart was moved. According to Ma Shangdao's words, Master Guidao was one of the 5 scattered people under the sect leader/2 protectors/4 great envoys. He should also be a powerful figure in the sect and should have some influence. While contemplating, he heard Ma Shangdao say, "Junior brother, wait a moment. When other junior brothers come to take over, I will take them to the place where the disciples live. It is said that the disciples have separate rooms for living. But if you need an independent cave, you need to exchange it for sect achievements or upgrade your cultivation to become a sect elder." Yes, junior brother has taken note. Our Huangquan holy sect actually doesn't have many sect rules, but we should remember to respect our teachers and emphasize the importance of the Tao, and prohibit private fights. In addition, if we want to achieve sect achievements, we need to complete sect tasks. There are also junior brothers who are new and can go to the Zhuang Academy to obtain 3 martial arts techniques. "Oh, senior brother Lu, can you do any of the 3 subjects you like?" Hearing that there is a cultivation technique, An brought up the 12-point spirit. "Well, that's not true. It's just a skill from the first level of the Zhuang Academy." Ma Shangdao continued. "Junior brother, I don't know that our sect recruits a group of talented disciples every 10 years, and our sect's disciples mainly come from this. After entering the sect, these disciples will be taught martial arts and practiced various skills by the elders of the Transmission Academy. Later, they will be selected by the elders as their own disciples, so it is rare for disciples to receive the 3 martial arts." "Well, what about the disciples who were not selected by the elders?" An Lai only realized at this moment that he was lucky and was directly brought back to the sect by his master, a ghost Taoist, and even accepted as a disciple. Other disciples will be assigned to various academies for alchemy, artifact refining, feeding spiritual beasts, and spiritual cultivation, all of which require us as cultivators. "I see. Thank you very much, senior brother, for your understanding. I remember." Chapter 7. Harvesting the Fleece of the Ancestral Sect, Seeking Flowers, Thanks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The thick dark clouds covered the entrance of the Huangquan sect like a quilt, with no sunlight from morning till night. I heard from a senior brother that the weather was always so dark all year round, but now that An Lai has practiced the ghost word technique, he seems to prefer this kind of weather. Early in the morning, An Lai arrived alone at the Zhuang Academy. An elderly guard was dozing off and either didn't notice An Lai's arrival or simply didn't want to talk to him. This Zhuang Academy is a leisurely entrance, where few disciples come on weekdays. Therefore, some elders who enjoy self-cultivation and self-cultivation will come here to guard, and there are also several disciples inside who are wiping away dust, so it should be. Seeing the old man continue to sleep, An Lai's heart is not careless. Elders in such places usually have considerable strength. "Disciple An, come and pay respects to senior uncle." Unexpectedly, except for the disciple who wiped the dust inside, his eyes were full of ridicule. Turning his head, he saw that the old man had not responded for a long time. With an awkward smile, he said again. The ghost Taoist personally passed on his disciple An Lai, upon the order of his master, to come and pay respects to his master. Several disciples in the room were all surprised. These disciples were not newcomers and could earn merits in the Zhuang Academy, but each had their own thoughts and ways. They heard that they were disciples of the ghost sect, so they carefully looked over. The old man opened his eyes, took his feet off the table, and then stood up, looking at the short-haired young man in front of him with clear eyebrows and eyes. He said, "What's going on?" "The disciple has just entered the sect and has come to collect 3 martial arts. Please verify them, senior uncle." An Lai sneered in his heart. It seemed that the tiger skin of this master was still useful. After speaking, he smiled and handed over his identity token. "Well, pick 3 copies of the first level of cultivation and ask me to take them back. They will be returned in 3 days. Go ahead." The old man looked at his identity token and saw that An Lai, 13 years old, had just entered the process of refining qi and did not see anything unusual. He then put down his token and continued to lie down. Yes, Uncle Xie. If I look at other martial arts by myself and remember them, I can't forget them. It's probably because I violated the sect's rule that only 3 martial arts can be obtained. However, An Lai had his own little plan in his heart. He could easily memorize more than 300 Buddhist scriptures from Bai Yen Temple by copying them once. This sect's cultivation method is also correct. Is it true that this is my golden finger, unforgettable at first glance, and it can also be considered a golden finger? Immediately, with a bitter smile on his face, he shook his head and threw the idea away. Entering the inner hall, looking up, I saw a dense bookshelf filled with various martial arts techniques, including gold, wood, water, fire, earth, yin, yang, and other classifications. There were also various markings such as knives, swords, spears, alchemy, and refining tools. I'm afraid there won't be tens of thousands of martial arts techniques left, and it truly deserves to be one of the 4 major sects of the demon cult. An Lai walked to the annotated knife bookshelf and took out a martial arts book. He saw that the cover of the animal skin was written with lost footwork, and then he took out another book, 8 trigrams in visible palm. Is this all just haphazardly arranged? The disorderly arrangement requires so many disciples to take care of here, and the merits of this sect are also too easy to earn. Alas, it seems that finding any cultivation method depends entirely on luck. Taking a glance at several disciples who were giggling, An Lai felt angry in his heart. The secret academy was so important, and the martial arts were stored in such a disorderly manner. It seemed that there were no rules within the sect, no wonder it was called the Yellow Spring Demon Sect by outsiders. Feeling unhappy in his heart doesn't affect his speed in his hands. With a long sword given by a master and ghost Taoist, he should first find a sword technique, practice some self-defense skills, and then find a flying skill, so that he can travel faster and go back to visit his younger sister as soon as possible. Oh, this 13 swordsmanships is good. After carefully examining it, put it back on the bookshelf and look for the next one. The Sword Sutra is a sword cultivation experience of a master from another sect. I don't know who stole this sword technique from, but I have carefully read it. Thunderbolt Steps is also good. During battles, if you move like lightning, your cultivation will explode and you can move 300 Zhuang in an instant. I have also reviewed it from scratch. In the first volume of God-Slaying Throwing Knife, surprisingly, the throwing knife that was released can kill gods. It's not a small tome, but you should also take a look. After a moment, he picked up Jumping Technique and jumped up 300 Zhuang. In swordsmanship, the sword is wielded with magical power to kill enemies from 100 miles away. It can fly with a sword and travel thousands of miles per day, but it consumes a lot of mana. Before the foundation period, the mana is not enough to fly with a sword. Thunderbolt Blade is actually a sword technique that matches Thunderbolt Step, and I have carefully read it. Oh, this is actually a method of controlling divine souls called Mingxin Mantra. It can temporarily grind out the divine consciousness of the cursed person and follow the caster to reveal the truth. This skill is quite good. After searching through a pile of martial arts for 2 hours, I finally went out with Falling Rain Sword, Flowing Wind for Thousands of Miles, and Leaving the Body Technique. After exchanging them for dungeons, I turned around and left the Tibetan Academy. Several disciples exchanged glances and then stood up to leave the Tibetan Academy. One person left at lightning speed, while the other 2 followed and far behind. The old man glanced at the few people who had passed away, sighed, and shook his head. He didn't like the internal strife within the sect, but it was easy for people to speak softly. When he saw dirty and wasteful activities happening again, he simply closed his eyes and ignored them. Having memorized so many martial arts techniques, there was not enough time to be happy. However, An Lai was alert and his divine sense swept back. Sure enough, there were 2 people behind him in the martial arts academy just now. He stopped and those two people immediately stopped and turned around. An Lai's face was extremely pale at the moment, and it was not a good thing to be targeted on the first day. Then he turned around and walked forward. "Senior brother Ma, I came to see you." A friendly shout woke up Ma Shangdao, who was dozing off. Ma Shangdao was puzzled in his heart. When he went out to take a look, he saw An Lai carrying a jar of the cheapest inferior wine and swaggering over. "Huh, senior brother and is too polite. I don't have anyone here on weekdays. If you want to come, senior brother, I welcome you anytime, but I don't want to bring anything." Ma Shangdao happily welcomed An Lai in. No one else on weekdays means no one will notice. Don't mention such a bad thing next time. However, An Lai secretly thought to himself that this jar of wine was not for nothing, and he smiled. "Yesterday when I went back to sleep, I realized that senior brother Ma was very kind to him and must come and thank him. However, when junior brother first arrived at the sect, he couldn't defeat me as a hero with even a penny, so please don't take it amiss, senior brother. I will definitely make up for the best treasure wine someday." Junior brother An spoke politely, knowing that he must have come to find him for something. "Let's see why he came. Junior brother, where do you talk? Junior brother is new to the sect. If you have nothing to do on weekdays, just come and find senior brother. I should know more about senior brother in the sect than junior brother. Okay, I won't hide it from senior brother. Junior brother came over today to ask for some advice. I wonder if senior brother can help him clarify his doubts." And said that he secretly stuffed a spirit stone that he only received yesterday. Ma Shangdao had a smile on his face, and as expected, this junior brother had taken the road. "Junior brother, please speak up quickly. I wonder if senior brother can tell me about my past ghost lineage and the current situation within the sect. If there are any elders in the same sect who cannot be dealt with, please let me know." An Lai's behavior was friendly, but he made it difficult for Ma Shangdao to speak before he could. He said again. "Since I have joined the master's sect, I should naturally do my part as a disciple of the ghost clan. If I can win back some face for the master, then the master will be happy to reward some treasures that are beneficial for cultivation. I will definitely not forget the senior brother's guidance." Upon hearing this, Ma Shangdao's face turned pale. He didn't want to mention his elders, and if he deviated even a little, he might have caught fire. But how could he evade this? Seeing Ma Shangdao's expression, An Lai's heart was already quite clear, so he said again. "Don't worry, senior brother. Since my master asked me to come and ask him for advice whenever I have something to do, I definitely have great trust in him. I can also swear to the heavenly Tao that what senior brother said to me today will come out of your mouth, into my ear, and never into the ears of any third person." Seeing An Lai's sincere expression again, although his words made him somewhat difficult, he also began to secretly calculate the gains and losses. Adding flowers to the brocade is better than sending carbon in the snow. At this moment, my junior brother is at the end of his life in the sect, and in the past, the descendants of the ghost lineage were all geniuses. Seeing An's words and actions, he will definitely have a good future. Immediately, Ma Shangdao also lowered his mind and looked at no one outside. He closed the door, hung a sign outside, and then pulled An Lai into the hall. Take out a formation plate casually and insert the spiritual stone that was just handed over by An. A small spiritual shield appeared, wrapping the two inside before speaking. "Junior brother, don't laugh at senior brother. It's just that this matter is not insignificant. Since Ghost Master Uncle and Junior Brother believe in me so much, then I have to go all out." Chapter 8. The Death of Senior Brother, Seeking Flowers, Collecting and. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing and listening attentively, he said again. "I know that Junior Brother's lineage is a single lineage, but I don't know if Junior Brother knows why Ghost Master Uncle didn't personally pass on disciples before you." Looking at Ma Shangdao with a deep expression on his face, how did An Lai know about this? Is there any other hidden information? He immediately asked. Is there anything that cannot be concealed? Actually, junior brother, you are already the fourth disciple of Ghost Master Uncle in order. An Lai was really scared this time and immediately asked, how are the three senior brothers in front of me? Naturally, he is dead. Ma Shangdao looked up at the sky with a hint of emotion on his face. No matter how good your talent is, no matter how powerful your master is, it still cannot withstand the ubiquitous calculation. There is also a limit to personal strength, and even if the master takes strict care, there may be moments of negligence. How did he die? An Lai felt a chill in his heart and couldn't help but ask. More than 180 years ago, Ghost Master Uncle received his first disciple, who was a beautiful and charming senior sister with excellent cultivation talent. After only practicing for 20 years, he defeated all the participating disciples in the once every 10 years disciple competition and won first place. It should be noted that disciples under the age of 60 can participate in the competition, and it is not easy to win first place. But when I received a mission from the sect and went out, I don't know what I encountered, and the soul lamp suddenly went out. And felt something was wrong upon hearing it, but couldn't figure it out and had no basis, making it difficult to guess for a moment. The second disciple has even more outstanding talent and is a disciple of an immortal cultivation family. He was discovered by the Ghost Master Uncle to have a talent for practicing ghost magic and was accepted as a personal disciple. In the battles of the four holy churches, a new army emerged. At that time, when other talented disciples were defeated and saw our sect about to lose, he led our disciples of the Huangquan holy sect to defeat the other three sects with great strength, winning first place and bringing huge benefits to our Huangquan holy sect. Unfortunately, on the way back, she was ambushed and died from being surrounded by many cultivators who had ambushed her in advance to save a female disciple who had been taken away. Afterwards, Ghost Master Uncle rarely appeared in the sect, sometimes not once in 10 years. What about the third senior brother? At this moment, An Lai couldn't help but ask. If the first time seemed like an accident, then the second time was definitely problematic. Let's see what happened on the third time. The third senior brother and I entered the sect at the same time. I still remember passing the sect trial with him and being accepted as disciples by the elders together. Occasionally, we would have to chat a few times. I thought he was just an ordinary person with the same qualifications as me, but unfortunately, he fell in love with the sect leader's beloved disciple, Situ Luyan senior sister, by chance. However, he was deeply trapped in it and couldn't extricate himself. As a result, he was instigated to gamble on the life and death platform with other disciples. He neglected to unify with one enemy against 10, and was surrounded and beaten to death by 10 disciples with cultivation comparable to his. However, he also forcefully killed 8 people, and the last one's cultivation was completely ruined. Now, only one person is left to practice in the sect. An Lai was horrified to hear this. Although all the disciples under his master's sect seemed to be geniuses, they all fell early. Due to the battle on the life and death platform, both the dead and injured were elite members of the sect, causing great pain to the sect leader. Therefore, the sect announced the revocation of the life and death platform and stipulated that in the future, disciples of the sect are not allowed to compete with each other and are strictly prohibited from calculating and harming each other. Therefore, in recent years, disciples have been relatively friendly. After listening to the experiences of the 3 senior brothers and sisters, An Lai confirmed that someone intentionally targeted his master, the ghost Taoist, or rather their lineage of inheritance. Who were the last 2 people to survive? This. Ma Shangdao's eyes showed a difficult expression, but he remained silent. An Lai felt anxious when he saw the situation, which was a matter of life and death for him. He couldn't help but be clear about the details of his opponent. There is a formation here to prevent listening, and even if senior brother doesn't say it, if others have doubts, they won't think so. The only thing they can rely on in the end is the long sword in their hand. Senior brother is a smart person, and I know that there must be many people who know about this matter. They have no reason to suspect senior brother, and only by shifting their gaze to me can senior brother handle it calmly. Silence for a moment. It was Imo-Wentian, the eldest disciple of the Western White Tiger Messenger, who survived and achieved complete decline in cultivation. There was also Zhuang, the eldest disciple of the humane Sanren among the 5 Sanren, who is now a top figure among his disciples in the sect. At this moment, Ma Shengdao spoke out what he knew, feeling regretful in his heart. He couldn't stop talking, but even if he thought too much, it wouldn't be beneficial. From now on, it all depends on his own fate. As a disciple of the holy cult, no one would engage in meaningless struggles for fairness and justice. When he pushed out the door, and exuded a strong alcoholic aura, as requested by Ma Shengdao. He had no choice but to cooperate, and his divine sense swept away from afar, but he did not see the 2 disciples. It was already late and he had already returned. Returning to the residence, it was already dark. Close the door and open the formation. This formation is connected to the sect's main formation, without the need for a separate spiritual stone to stimulate it. Additionally, each room has a small spiritual gathering formation to help disciples accelerate their cultivation progress. At this moment, An Lai's heart was quite heavy. He thought he had good luck and was taken as a disciple by his master and ghost Taoist. However, he was in a fatal crisis and was immediately targeted upon entering the sect. Just listening to Ma Shengdao's words, it is relatively safe within the sect, but there is still some unease in my heart. It seems that this is being targeted and cannot be avoided. I can only improve my cultivation as soon as possible and reduce my presence by going out as little as possible. Take out 3 martial arts techniques, falling rain sword. When the swordsmanship is perfected, it can make the long sword transform into 100 and fall from the sky. Of course, only one is a real sword, and the others are only transformed by magic, with little actual killing power for cultivators. Flowing wind for thousands of miles is the method he wants to practice at this moment. Using magic to support his body, floating in the air like a leaf, drifting along the wind for thousands of miles, it is the most mana-saving rushing technique. The leap of 300 zhang in Zongshan Shu is close to a kilometer, which should not be underestimated. It is perfectly suitable to match Luoyu sword. Sitting cross-legged in silence, with my mouth tightly closed, I was reciting the Diamond Sutra in my heart. Over and over again, suddenly a golden light appeared all over my body, and a layer of inch-long golden light gradually rose on the surface of my body. At the moment, An Lai looks like a golden arhat, and is very solemn. Finally, he has refined the Vajra Sutra to a small extent, which can generate magic power, but it is integrated into the various orifices and acupoints of the body to stabilize the body. The Diamond Sutra has entered the Qi refining phase, and the golden magical power around the body is surging. The biggest change is that the surface of the body has regained some blood and energy. Without the paleness of practicing ghost cultivation techniques, it should be temporarily fearless of this Yin Sha's ghost true energy. An Lai stopped the Diamond Sutra and silently recited other Buddhist techniques and supernatural powers in his heart. Although it was not as obvious as the Diamond Sutra, it also made his heart clear and peaceful. The ghost word technique practiced within the body generates a layer of Yin Sha magic power. At this moment, An Lai has no worries, but he is also fully using the ghost word technique to cultivate more magic power, refine and expand the Qi Si and Dan field, and improve his cultivation. Now there is an unknown danger coming to him, but it cannot be underestimated. Holding a long sword in hand, I practiced the falling rain sword for a while. I had already memorized the basic sword techniques for an hour, and I had also carefully studied the body soaring technique and flowing wind for thousands of miles. However, these techniques, which rely mainly on understanding the essence, cannot be rushed and can only be simulated and practiced with magic. The gate of Huangquan sect is also very strange. The sun is not visible during the day, but at night, there is a bright moonlight shining throughout the mountains. An Lai opened the window, and a cold wind blew in. It turned out that it was almost the end of the secular year, and I don't know how my little sister is now. Chapter 9. Zhuang Yu, Seeking Flower and Collection Support. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. And Xiaoya, wake up for me, you're still asleep. Did you forget to pour me a night pot? The obese boy kicked open the wooden door and shouted loudly, holding up his pants. Seeing the girl lying on the bed unresponsive, she became even more angry and climbed onto the bed, kicking the little girl under her cotton jacket. After kicking a few times and seeing that the person lying down had no reaction, I felt a little flustered. I took off my cotton jacket and looked at it, only to find that it had already frozen into ice. Looking at the thin quilt below, it was also damp. However, when I took off the quilt, I saw that An Xiaoya remained motionless, her face pale and lifeless. Ah, mother, help me, I'm dead. The chubby boy was so scared that he fell off the bed, and a smell of urine came from his pants. As he crawled out, he exclaimed in surprise, "Mother, save me, there's a ghost." When everyone heard the shout, they ran over. A thin woman ran over, and it was the mother of the chubby boy, Liang. She saw her son lying on the ground, with a smell of urine on his pants that had slipped to his knees, struggling to crawl. However, she was too fat and couldn't get up for a while. When Liang came in, she burst into tears and said, "My mother saved me, so An Xiaoya is going to eat me." The accompanying servants quickly stepped forward and helped the chubby young master up. However, Liang took a step forward and saw An Xiaoya's face pale, but her eyelids were still trembling slightly. She then touched the girl's forehead with her hand, but it was icy and piercing. Goodbye, the cotton jacket was already frozen and stained with mud, and it was unclear what had happened there. Last night during dinner, I heard my son scold An Xiaoya and punish her not to eat. They agreed with him quite well. Since they came to their Zhuang family, they could no longer have Miss An's temper. We had to suppress her temper first and let her recognize her identity and status. This is how a child bride is like. Unexpectedly, this kid didn't know the importance, but he made her suffer a cold and immediately ordered, "Wu mama, boil some hot water to feed this girl." There was a loud knock on the door. "Come in," a lazy voice came from inside the room, followed by a rustling sound of dressing. The door was pushed open, and a man in black walked in. As he saw no one in the hall and was about to enter the inner room, a burst of footsteps came and he stepped aside. However, a beautiful woman with a rosy face like peach blossoms walked out, glanced at the visitor, and quickly ran out. Entering the inner room, a familiar and disgusting aura rushed towards his face. The man frowned, but saw a man sitting on the bed with a sharp face, sword-like eyebrows, wearing obscene pants, bare upper body, revealing his slender body in sturdy muscles. The man thought to himself, "A good set of skin, no wonder it can win the favor of the female disciple." The man on the bed was slightly taken aback when he saw the person coming, obviously not expecting them to come and find him. He smiled and said, "What kind of wind brought Brother Mo over today? Rare guest, rare guest." His expression was casual, and he didn't get up after speaking. He just looked at Mo Wenfan, who was not good-looking and didn't show any cultivation in front of him. I secretly thought to myself that if it weren't for his brother, I wouldn't have known such an ordinary junior brother. "Have you met Senior Zhuang Yu? He asked me to ask you, have you forgotten about Wei Shishan?" Mo Wenfan asked calmly after a salute. "What, isn't Wei Shishan already dead?" Zhuang Yu got up and stood up, his upright posture showing that he was one head higher than Mo Wenfan in front of him. "Senior brother, haven't you received any news? Wei Shishan now has a junior brother entering the sect again." "Oh, what is this person's cultivation?" Zhuang Yu saw Mo Wenfan's solemn expression and asked. "I just started learning yesterday and went to the Cangong Academy to obtain 3 low-level techniques. I think I have just entered the qi cultivation stage." Mo Wenfan honestly spoke out what he knew. He understood that any addition would lead to erroneous judgments and sometimes even death. Ha ha ha, as if hearing a big joke, Zhuang Yu laughed recklessly before stopping for a while. A disciple who cultivates one level of qi can make your brother nervous like this. It's probably because he hasn't recovered his cultivation yet. Even if he hasn't recovered his cultivation, your brother can still make him disappear in the daytime. After speaking, he picked up his clothes and put them on. He wanted to arrange some things, otherwise the kids below wouldn't remember his senior brother anymore. Senior brother Zhuang's words are not untrue, but now that the Ghost Dao people are guarding the sect, it may be difficult for the sect to take action. Therefore, what my brother means is that we need to consider in the long run, but we must not let him achieve great success in his martial arts. At this moment, Mo Wenfan is extremely serious and has a strong sense of admonition. I know now. Tell your brother, we each do our own things, practice our qi together, and don't need too much calculation. I will arrange it as a foundation. Yes, senior brother Zhuang, please don't be careless. This time, after 60 years of entering the ghost sect, I'm afraid he must have extraordinary talent, otherwise he shouldn't waste his energy. Zhuang Yu remained silent for a moment and said, I understand. I will arrange it and if necessary, I will personally take action. You cannot let him practice, so don't hesitate to take action. Yes, then I'll go back first. After speaking, Mo Wenfandang left first, and then Zhuang Yu also walked out. The winter nights are particularly cold. An Jia and An Shangfu are eating wine in a restaurant today. His friend's son is getting married today, so he went to have a wedding banquet early, drank a lot of wine, and returned late. Upon returning home, he entered the bedroom and prepared to lie down and sleep. Do you still know that when you come back, it's good for you to settle down? You can just bully me. That kind-hearted girl from your family almost scared my nephew to death, but now she has lost her soul and dare not go out yet. You know, why did I end up being a troublemaker in your family? My life is so miserable. At this moment, Jing disregarded the drunkenness of the strong man and started crying loudly. He held a vase worth tens of silver coins and threw it onto the glass mirror, shattering over 100 silver coins into pieces. And Shangfu didn't wake up and lay down to sleep. Seeing that the noise and throwing of things had no effect, the sarcastic woman's face became even angrier. Okay, you're a wealthy woman. Since you don't care about us, let's go back to our mother's house, he said, slamming the door and leaving. And Chun, your cousin was so scared by that dead girl that he lost his soul. Hurry up and come back with me to visit your cousin, the woman said in a different tone as she approached her son's room. As soon as An Chun heard that his cousin was scared to death by Xiaoya, he quickly got up and followed Jingshi away. At this moment, the Jing family's house was brightly lit, summoning souls for his only son's actions. The Jing family boy curled up in his mother's arms, with tears in his eyes, but this time he was frightened quite a bit. Seeing An Chun's mother and son entering the door, they all turned their faces away. If it weren't for her throwing the losing girl over, how could her son have had what happened today? But she forgot that she was quite satisfied with the girl's appearance back then and gave her a sum of silver. She was so charming at a young age, and if she had grown up, she wouldn't have been so cheap. Look at the person you threw over, that's a disaster star that makes my family uneasy. Look at your nephew, he's your own nephew. If he's anything but good, my Jing family will be extinct. A middle-aged man who looked somewhat similar to Jing complained to her. I first went to see Younger with Chunner, and then they walked up to the chubby boy. They took out a golden lock from their arms and hung a few small bells, and the jingling sound came out when they shook. June, it's better. Auntie has come to see you. If it's okay, I'll give you the longevity gold lock in Auntie's hand. After speaking, he shook the golden lock in front of the chubby boy and made a crisp sound. Upon hearing the sound, the chubby boy turned his head and saw the exquisite golden long life lock in front of him. He could also move his eyes and quickly jumped out of Liang's arms. He reached out and grabbed the gold lock, pulled it over, and held it in his hand. Looking at the smiling face, he was overjoyed. Upon seeing this, Liang's face instantly smiled and said, "Thank you, Aunt. Aunt loves you the most. Look, I heard you were sick and I'll come back to see you as soon as possible." A voice came. "Thank you, Auntie." In the blink of an eye, there was no trace of anyone. As expected, this golden lock is more effective than the Taoist priest invited. "Mother, I want to go see the little girl," but An Chun had a youthful nature and knew his mother's thoughts. He also wanted to take a look at the girl he hadn't seen for a long time. "What are you going to? Didn't you hear from your uncle? She's just a disaster star. Look at how Yunga has been bullied by her. Do you still want to go? Do you think our mother and I have lived too long? If you were also harmed by her, how would you let me live?" Chapter 10. Disciples of Taiyi Palace, Seeking Flowers, Collecting. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the early morning, the sun had risen in the small town for a long time, and a carriage stopped in front of the Zhuang family's house. A rather sturdy man, An Shangfu, got off the carriage and knocked on the courtyard door. His thick and long eyebrows furrowed. The arrangement for last night's ceremony had not been removed, and everyone was eating breakfast. Seeing him come in, the head of the family warmly welcomed him. The Zheng family was able to leap from a poor family to one of the top wealthy households on this street, and the people in front of them were indispensable. Although his wife Zheng was the one who gave the silver money, who should have let him earn it. "June, is everything okay?" And Shangfu spoke up. "Greetings to my uncle. I worked as a child monk all night and just woke up a bit this morning. My nephew is grateful for my uncle's concern." Seeing the golden lock on the chubby boy's neck, An Shangfu frowned and looked at his wife Zhengshi. Upon seeing this, Zheng pulled his son around and left him with two figures behind. "As long as it's okay, Xiaoya is there. I'll go teach her a lesson. On this side, please come with me, uncle." Liang Shi walked through the small courtyard with An Shangfu and arrived at a room in the backyard. A woman was guarding the door, waving her hand to let the servant go down, and then pushed open the door. At this moment it is still cold winter outside, but it is as warm as early summer inside. A pot of charcoal is burned in front of the bed, and the room is equipped with various types of furniture. There are also several exquisite jewelry pieces of women on the dressing table, and a precious wool carpet is laid on the ground. The golden silk wooden bed emitted a refreshing fragrance. Seeing the little girl's pale face, she closed her eyes tightly. In less than a month, she had become thin and had changed her appearance. And Shangfu's face finally showed a hint of concern. "Have you invited a doctor?" "Yes, I just finished taking the medicine and fell asleep." Liang pointed to the empty bowl on the table. "Well, please, she has lost her parents since childhood, so we must treat her well. Uncle, rest assured that since Xiaoya came to our house, she has vacated Yunga's house for her to live in. She has meat for 3 meals a day. This girl has a stubborn temper and thinks that our family is not worthy of him, so she thought of playing tricks on Yunga. However, the two of them fell ill together. This can be considered as a family that doesn't come into the same house. It's a big fate." Liang accompanied her with a careful smile. After hearing this, the strong man gradually felt at ease. Xiaoya was too immature, and as soon as she grew older, she would be fine. Then she turned around and left. Winter nights are always very long and quiet, except for the sound of banging and banging, there is no other sound. You give Brother Lai's golden lock to Brother Junurgansa. The sound of a strong man came from the darkness. What kind of golden lock from brother? You've explained it to me clearly, isn't it still our family's? Your mother has always been biased. If it weren't for her dying early, I'm afraid half of this family wouldn't be yours. A sharp woman's voice sounded. What I'm talking about is the golden lock, which is a birthday gift from my mother to my younger brother. Why isn't it from my younger brother? Come on, come on, come on, call me closer than my own son. What's wrong with his golden lock when his sister provokes this? Shouldn't it be? Sharp sounds are louder. Heart said. It depends on what kind of golden lock you will toss and turn in the future. You mother.in.law really doesn't understand the reason. If Yunga falls ill, he will be treated by a doctor. He will take care of his brother's golden lock. Besides, the golden lock was given to him by his mother. That's how you gave him away. Okay, my nephew is not my nephew. Your nephew is your nephew, right? So where is your nephew now? So let him come and see your uncle. What else can you expect from him? She sneered sarcastically. There was no sound coming from the darkness anymore, and killing was nothing more than that. Head of the household, do you want to invite a doctor to take a look? It's been 3 days and this girl hasn't improved either. The voice of Liang came from the darkness. You have that idle money, and I still owe gambling debts outside. What should I use to hire a doctor? Besides, when a child falls ill, it doesn't take a few days to get over it. The girl who nobody wants has a hard life. But I feel like she's getting more and more serious, and I'm afraid she won't look at the doctor anymore. What's to be afraid of? It's all her fault. The girl who nobody wanted came to my house and was not satisfied. She didn't pay attention to Junior. How can she serve Junior well in the future? If she dies, she deserves it. If she wants to do so much and can't survive, she should throw it away early to avoid being unlucky at home. We haven't been intimate for a long time. Tonight, we drank 2 bowls of sweet potato sauce, but now we're in high spirits. 2 days later, An Jia received news from the Zheng family that An Xiaoya didn't make it through and went. In the early morning, the sun shone on the city gate, which slowly opened. A white-haired old man pushed a rickshaw out of the gate. Damn it, the little girl was abandoned before she even lost her temper. What kind of ruthless parents are these? How could they be so ruthless? Sigh, even this God who has been beaten 1,000 times doesn't open his eyes. Uncle, wait a moment, a gentle voice called out to him. Although there was not much noise, the old man who had been deaf for many years could hear it clearly and then stopped. Not far away, 2 wealthy people dressed up walked over. At first, one of them was a beautiful woman dressed in white, with a golden hairpin on her head. She looked like the daughter of a wealthy family. The other person was a man with a majestic appearance, dressed in a white robe, wearing a jade crown on his head, and no need for bread. He also looked up to being a wealthy young man. As soon as the woman walked in, she said to the old man, "Uncle, I just heard your words. Is there a girl who has been abandoned? Can I take a look?" "Oh, hurry up, you're really a fairy. Can you help take a look? This little girl is cute and well behaved, and she hasn't stopped breathing yet. If she could save her life, it would be better than building a level 7 pagoda." However, at this moment, the old man dared not speak of a female bodhisattva and didn't know how to say that the fairy would save someone's life. He just spoke out what he had heard from the monks in Bai Yen Temple before. The old man quickly lifted the straw mat and revealed the girl under it, thin and pale, wearing a black cotton jacket, which looked like a child from a poor family. The woman was about to reach out when she saw a man next to her saying, "Senior sister, we came to investigate important matters under the orders of our teacher. It's not good to delay the important matters of our school for the sake of a mortal girl." The woman didn't stop, continued to touch the neck of the little girl, and indeed felt a slight pulse. Then, she inexplicably transformed into a cotton jacket and wrapped the little girl in her arms. At this moment, the old man only felt like he had met a fairy. Otherwise, how could he be so beautiful and change into a cotton coat at will? However, he knelt on the ground and shouted, "See the female fairy." "Excuse me, father.in.law. I'm not a fairy, I'm also a human. Do you know what other family members this girl has?" The old man replied, "Goddess, please save this poor child. She was left at the street corner, but I am familiar with that area. No one has a girl of this age in their family. Perhaps she escaped from other places. Okay, Father.In.Law. My junior brother and I are disciples of the Taiyi Palace. If any of our elders come to seek help, please let me know and I will take them up the mountain for treatment. You can leave a document in the government and it will be transmitted to my Taiyi Palace for me to know. Alright, I remember the old man. Goddess, hurry up and save her. After finishing speaking, he watched as the two of them walked towards the city with their daughter in their arms. He nodded but said. God opened his eyes and allowed this girl to meet a female fairy. Now there is hope for her to be saved. After speaking, he turned his head and pushed the car towards the outside of the city. In the upper room of Fuan Inn, the woman slowly dried the girl's body, fed her medicine, and let her lie down slowly. The girl's breathing gradually became much more stable, and her delicate face slowly turned red, but she had not yet woken up. On the other side of the window, the man in white had an unpleasant expression and said to the woman in white. Senior sister, this time we were ordered by our teacher to investigate the whereabouts of the ghost Taoist, but you still brought a dragging oil bottle to influence our actions. What should we do? Junior brother, you should also know how I got started, right? That's natural. Senior sister has extraordinary talent and was brought into the mountain gate by the master. No one in the palace knows this. The master picked up you, a genius disciple. The man in the white robe's expression improved a bit at this moment, and then he said again. But this little girl has a thin and weak physique, with a gloomy expression, but she is not a genius on the senior sister's side. Junior brother, I was also picked up by my master from the pile of dead people back then. The woman in white seemed to recall the past, with a bitter expression on her face. Senior sister, all of this has passed. You are now a disciple of Taiyi Palace, and the pain of the past will never appear again. The man comforted the woman when he saw her look ugly. Well, so when I saw this little girl, it was like seeing myself at that time. I had to save her, otherwise my heart would be uneasy. Even if my master was here, he would still save her like me. When she wakes up, we will go to Bai Yen Temple to check, and it won't delay the important matters of our sect. The woman in white is now firm in her tone and cannot be refuted by the man.